Hello TET exam aspirants. So in this live class, we are going to discuss about one of the important concepts of the child development and pedagogy section, that is Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So this is one of the important topics in the TET exam, where at least 2 to 3 MCQs are expected, and this will help you with the preparation for the TET exam. So let's start the class now. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel first, because we are providing live classes for various exams. Like we are providing for TET exams, we are providing for SCT exams, we are even providing IGNOU classes. So this YouTube channel is going to be very useful to you all. So let's subscribe to our YouTube channel and share our channel also, so that it reaches wider students and it will be helpful to them as well. So now let's start the class on Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So in this live session, we are majorly going to do a detailed discussion on Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. This is one of the important concepts in the TET exam. As I said, this is one of the important concepts in the TET exam, which carries decent weightage basically. So it's a complete guide in this particular video. Through this video, you will understand how children actively construct knowledge through experience, exploration, and discovery, as proposed by Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So, first, let us know who was actually Jean Piaget and what did he propose. So, the core idea of Jean Piaget was, so Piaget viewed children as little scientists. So, according to Piaget, the children are always considered as little scientists, and they are very active learners who built their own understanding of the world through direct experience, not passive reception of information. So according to Piaget, so children are little scientists and they understand the world through direct experience. They are active learners. Children are always active learners. They are not passive learners. They are active learners because they always learn on the basis of experience. They understand the world based on experience and not based on information, basically. So that is why children are always regarded as little scientists, as per Piaget. And why it matters for TG TET, why this topic is very important in the TET exam. It is one of the most frequently asked topics in the CDP part, in not only Telangana TET, even in CTET, most frequently tested topic, this one. And understanding this topic is very important, because it will help you to answer more direct application based questions, basically. And now, key process and terms. So some of the important terms that are related to Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So schemas. So schema is nothing but mental frameworks, like filling cabinets that organize and store knowledge about the world. So schema is something where the knowledge is stored and organized. What knowledge? Knowledge about the world. So knowledge about the world is stored and organized. It's like filling cabinets, basically. Mental framework is called as schema. And assimilation. Assimilation means it's fitting new information into an existing schema. So there is a schema already in which the knowledge is stored and organized. It's like filling cabinet, and to the same schema, adding new information to the existing schema, adding new information. Example: a child sees a cub and calls it a doggy. For example, a child, he sees a small cub, and he calls it doggy, which means it's a small dog. It's a pet small dog, basically. So instead of using the word cub, he uses it as doggy, basically. So here, to the existing schema, to the existing knowledge, new knowledge is added. So that is called as assimilation. And accommodation, modifying existing schema or creating new one. The child learns the cub is a lion, not the dog. So in the accommodation process, the child is someone who understands that there is a modification to his knowledge. For example, instead of saying instead of saying the cub is a dog, he will say that the cub is a lion. So basically, so in the assimilation process, the child doesn't know the difference between a dog and a cub. And why do we use the word cub? For in what context we use the word cub? So in assimilation and schema process, students, like children, they do not know that. But when you modify the schema, the existing knowledge, the child will understand that the cub is the word that is used for a baby lion, not the dog. So the cupboard is related to lion and not the dog. That's how the student builds up the knowledge. So accommodation is a process where the existing knowledge and schema is modified as per the student's age, basically. And equilibration, the drive to restore mental balance. New info causes disequilibrium. Child uses assimilation, accommodation, equilibrium is restored. So equilibrium is something that is called as mental knowledge. It is all about restoring the mental balance. The child uses assimilation and accommodation through which he can maintain the mental balance. So through the assimilation process, he gets basic understanding, but through the accommodation process, that basic understanding on every aspect is improvised. So maintaining that mental balance is called as equilibration. So this is also one of the important point as per this Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Now, the four stages. What are the important four stages of Piaget's cognitive development theory of cognitive development? One is sensory motor object permanence. So, one stage is sensory motor, which is also called as object permanence, and the second one is pre-operational, which is considered as a symbolic play, pre-operational, and the third one is concrete operational, which is considered as conservation and logic. So sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. So formal operational is something that is called as abstract reasoning. So concrete operational is something that is called as conservation and logic. So these are the important four stages of Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development, and you need to understand the right sequence. It starts with sensory motor, then it develops into pre-operational, then it further develops into concrete operational, then it finally develops into formal operational. So this is the right sequence of the four stages. If an MCQ or a match the following question is asked on it, so this is the right sequence for the four stages of Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development, and the sequence is fixed. This sequence is fixed and it can't be interchanged, and no child can skip a stage also through individual or page difference, through individual page differs. So it's a very fixed stage. Now, detailed explanation on stage one, sensory motor stage. So, sensory motor stage is something that happens between 0 to 2 years of the child. So, how child learns during the sensory motor change? So, 0 to 2 years are usually not called as children; they are called as infants. So, infants explore the world entirely through their senses. So, here their sense only works for children. Their sense for infants only their sense works, like they can taste, they can feel the touch, they can sight, and they can hear. These are called motor actions. There is no symbolic representation basically during this sensory motor stage. The infants, they can't understand any symbolic representations or expressions. They can only feel the touch, sense the state, understand sight and hear. Basically these are motor actions. There is no internal symbolic representation, like the world only exists as it directly experience. So they don't know anything about the world. Basically they can only sense in this particular stage, sensory motor stage. And the object permanence, the understanding that objects continue to exist even when out of sight, this develops around 8 to 9 months. So when this infant attains 8 to 9 years, they get into a stage where they understand the objects, like object permanence. They understand the objects and continue to exist, and that they develop that knowledge. Basically object permanence happens when that infant attains 8 to 9 months basically. And other key traits: goal directed behavior, intentionally reaching for objects. So when the infant attains that 8 to 9 months, because they starts remembering the objects, they start understanding the objects, they try to reach the objects intentionally. That's a goal directed behavior. And deferred imitation, copying an action seen at an earlier time. And a major limitation, lacks symbolic or language based thought. So here in the sensory motor stage, there is the child, the infant, the child will not have any symbolic or language based knowledge. No symbolic knowledge or no language knowledge. It's all about sensing. Only their sense works here. That too, they can only feel the touch, feel the taste and sight and hearing. That's it. Only motor actions are possible when the child is 0 to 2 years. And the second stage is pre-operational stage. In the pre-operational stage, the between 2 to 7 years, the child usually identifies the symbols and develops the symbolic thought like words, images, drawings, represent drawings, everything they start remembering. However, their thought process will purely be illogical only. So when the child is between 2 to 7 years, even though they understand symbolic thought process like words, images, and all, overall their thinking level is usually illogical and egocentric. So one important there are few terms that are related to pre-operational stage. So one is egocentrism. So egocentrism means inability to take another person's viewpoint. So when the child is between 2 to 7 years, specifically between the kids who are 5 to 7 years, they don't accept the viewpoint of anyone, even their parents. If the parents say something, these children, the child doesn't follow it. So that is called as egocentrism. So they don't actually take anyone's viewpoint. They don't follow anyone's instructions or viewpoint. They are demonstrated by Piaget's famous three mountains task. So it's a very hectic task for the parents also, to make children understand things when they are between that 2 to 7 years, because they are very egocentrism approach and animism, believing inanimate objects like dolls, the sun, or clouds have feelings and life. So when the child is between these 2 to 7 years, what they usually think is it's a illogical thinking. So illogical thinking, one example is, even if they see a doll, they think that the doll has feelings and life. Even if they see sun or a moving clouds, they think that they have feelings and life. So it's a pretty illogical thinking that they will have at this age. That is called animism. And centration is something where the focus is only on one feature of an object while ignoring all others. So in centration process, the focus is always on one object only, and other objects are always ignored. And irreversibility is something where the child cannot mentally reverse a sequence. Example, knowing 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, but not realizing 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. So in pre-operational stage, a child only understands that 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, for example, but they do not understand that 5 minus 3 is equal to 2, because at this age they don't have that logical thought process, basically. So because they don't have that logical thought process, they don't understand the irreversibility aspect here. And lack of conservation. Child does not understand that quantity stays the same despite changes in shape or container. They even the children, even they don't understand that the quantity stays the same. Even so it's a lack of conservation. So illogical and egocentric thought process is more during the pre-operational stage, that too when a child is between 2 to 7 years old. And the third one is concrete operational stage. This is a very crucial age for the students, and it's one of the important stages in Jean Piaget's cognitive development theory. So it is between 7 to 11 years. The major leap forward, children begin to think logically. So here logical thinking starts. When the child attains 7 years, the child usually develops logical thinking, but only about concrete physical objects they can see or manipulate. So there is no proper abstract reasoning. They can only develop logical thinking, but only to certain extent. But abstract reasoning is out of reach here. So conservation. They understand mass, volume, and number stay the same regards of shape or arrangement. So they understand a basic of physics like mass, volume, etc. And then reversibility. They can mentally understand 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, and they can easily understand 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. And so they can easily understand that reversibility options are there, so they can do additions and they can do subtractions also at this particular age, at this particular stage. Reversibility is pretty possible here. And classification, can group objects into categories and subcategories simultaneously. So if you put some 10 objects in front of them, between 7 to 11-year-old child, the child will be able to categorize those objects into the as per the relevancy. So that categorization, subcategorization, logical thought process children will have at this age, 7 to 11 years. And serration, ability to arrange items in order. So they can also arrange the objects in order, like shortest to tallest and lightest to heaviest. So they are very much able to identify that mass, volume, number, etc. And decentration can consider multiple aspects of a problem at the same time. So for everything, they will have multiple interpretations. So for every issue, for every thing, they will think multiple dimensions. In this particular age, 7 to 11 years, they are always confused, but they are able to think a little logical here in stage 3, that is concrete operational stage. And stage 4, formal operational stage. So here it's from 11 years to adulthood. So cognitive peak, this is also called as cognitive peak because these are adolescents. They develop ability to think abstractly, hypothetically, and systematically. So between 11 years, so from 11th year of the child always develops that abstract thinking, hypothetical thinking, and systematic thinking. Hypothetical deductive reasoning. So from hypothesis and test it systematically, the foundation of scientific thinking. So hypothetical and deductive reasoning is one of the important stages in formal operational process where the child develops as hypothetical deductive reasoning type of thinking. Abstract thinking, basically they develop it. They understand concepts like love, justice, morality, and algebraic values. So here they understand the feelings also, like what is the love, what is justice, morality, everything they can understand. So that abstract thinking usually develops here. And metacognition, thinking about thinking, the ability to reflect one's own thought process. So here in the adulthood, like adolescent age, to children usually they go back to their own thoughts and think whether they whether they are doing correct or wrong. Some sort of logical understanding they will get in this formal operational stage. So a unique test, it's adolescent egocentrism. This is one of the important terms that usually appears in the TET exam. Imaginary audience, everyone is watching and judging me. So when the child is adolescent, like when the child attains that 11th year, they develop some inferiority feeling also, where they think that everyone is watching him or her, and they are judging them. Personal fable, I am unique, special, and invincible. Nothing bad can happen to me. All this kind of statements these children give. Little immaturity, that immaturity is there, but they think that everyone is watching them, judging them, and they think that they are very special, they are unique. So all this thought process comes in formal operational stage, which is actually interesting. And quick revision, so here is some quick revision. So sensory motor, so sensory motor is a stage, is something that happens between 0 to 2 years of infant. And the key milestone here is object permanence, and major limitation is lack symbolic thought. There is no symbolic thought process here. But in pre-operational, egocentrism and irreversibility usually happens. And symbolic play and language, here kids can understand symbolic and way of language and symbolic knowledge and language they can understand. And concrete operational is between 7 to 11 years, where conservation and logical thought process develops in the children, but they cannot think too abstractly. But formal operation is something where they can do more abstract and hypothetical reason, basically. So this is also called as cognitive peak. The formal operational stage is also called as cognitive peak. So you need to understand the age, basically the age range, basically, because one MCQ is often appearing in the TET exams on these stages, the age and the stages. So this is very important. And educational implications for the classroom, according to Piaget's theory, the Piaget's theory of cognitive development is not only theoretical, it has a direct implications in practical approach also when it comes to teaching. Developmentally appropriate curriculum. So do not teach abstract algebra to 5-year old. You cannot teach algebra to a 5-year old. You can only teach algebra to someone who attains that abstract level of thinking stage, that is operational stage, that is peak, cognitive peak stage, basically. And teacher as a facilitator, teacher is the guide here. So the teacher has to encourage the discovery, learning, experimentation, and hands-on exploration here. And individual difference, children reach stages at different places. A teacher must recognize and accommodate variation without labeling slow learners, basically. And readiness to learn, this is also one of the important implications in the cognitive theory of development by Jean Piaget. So some important confusing topics here. Assimilation versus accommodation, it is always a confusing topic. Assimilation is something like using old schema for new info. Accommodation is something like changing the schema and adding more info. Questions often swap, so you need to read these two terms very carefully: assimilation and accommodation. And object permanence timing. Object permanence develops at 8 to 9 months. So object permanence, the knowledge is something that is developed when the infant attains that 8 to 9 months. It doesn't happen at the birth. And egocentrism and selfishness, both are different. Egocentrism is different, selfishness is different. Egocentrism is something that is inability to take another's perspective, and not moral selfishness. This is a classic misreading in exam options. So egocentrism is different and selfishness is different in this theory. And formal operations has no limitation in Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So that's all about it. So children are active learners. Finally, the summary is children are active learners. There are four fixed stages: sensory, motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and forward operational. Sequence never changes, and you need to understand the terms very clearly. The differences between schema, assimilation, accommodation, equilibration. These are direct MCQs that are asked in the TET exam, usually Telangana TET, not only Telangana TET, but also CTET exam or other TET exams. And pedagogy matters a lot in this particular theory of teaching. So that's all about Jean Piaget's cognitive theory of cognitive theory. If you have any doubts or queries, you can ask through the comment section. We will address your queries. Do like, share, and subscribe to